Hi everybody, it's Claire back with another project for the Scrap FX design team. So today I'm working in my Square Dilutions journal and I'm going to be working on a double page spread, an interactive spread. So I'm starting off by adding some measurements collage paper to the page. There is already a thin layer of gesso on the page as well, and I'm going to be sticking the collage paper down using some gel matte medium. So then once that was dry, I wanted to add some more collage to the background and didn't have any more collage paper left. So I decided I would get a piece of plain collage paper. It's collage tissue paper, I think it's from Dina Wakley. And I'm just stamping on the Crazy Circle stamp, also from Scrap FX, using black archival ink. And then I've just torn a couple of pieces off that and I'm also sticking those down onto the background using gel medium again. And then once that was dry, I'm just using a bit of gesso on a blending tool, and just around the edges of the collage, I'm just adding a bit of gesso just to kind of help blend those edges in. Then I'm using apricot, Dina Wakley paint and carnation. I'm starting off with fairly pastel colours in the background. Then some heather. I always want to call it lavender, I don't know why. Heather next, it's starting to look quite pretty. Next a bit of aloe. And finally a little bit of mineral. Now this next bit didn't work quite so well because some of the paint had already dried. So then I'm using the loopy script stencil and a baby wipe and just trying to remove some of the paint through the stencil. So it worked in some of the areas quite well and then not so well in others, but that's okay. Then I'm using some apricot again, and I'm using the mesh stencil from Scrap FX and just adding a bit more stencil detail to the background. Then this is the puddle stencil, and I'm using this again with some heather. Now I decided that that hadn't really shown up well enough, so I'm using some permanent red violet from Amsterdam acrylic with a little bit of white added in, and I'm going to be putting this onto the page through the loopy script stencil using a blending tool. I felt that it was all kind of becoming a bit of a nothing background actually. Whilst the colours are very pretty, nothing was really standing out well enough. So this was where it kind of started to take shape a little bit more, I felt. So I'm just adding 3 areas of stenciling. And then adding a little bit of yellow just to give it a bit of warmth. Just adding that with my finger as I wanted a kind of smudgy look. Then this is the number stencil from Scrap FX, and I'm just adding a bit of penny onto this using a small brayer. I love the way that this comes out. This stencil, sorry, not stencil, stamp, I think is one of my favourites. Then these are the Luminous Lovelies by Michelle Logan. I've added these into the middle of the page, and I'm just adding a little bit of shading down the left-hand side just to help them stand out a bit. Then I'm using a StazOn ink in a bright pink and just adding a little bit of stamping to the page. So next I've got some craft cardstock. It is definitely cardstock, it's thicker than paper. It's a Dina Wakley cardstock. And I'm using this stencil, which I absolutely love, and it's called Simply Leaf Stencil. You could have worked that out, I'm sure. This is from Scrap FX as well. So I'm using black and a blending tool and just stenciling around these. Then I'm going to cut them out, and these are going to get used on the page as like little flaps that you can lift to reveal what's underneath. So I needed 4 of these in total. I would have just gone for 3, but because it's a double page spread, it wouldn't have quite covered enough. So I've broken the rule and gone for an even number, but actually I think it works okay on the final page when it's finished. So there we go, just repeating the process. Then I decided that I was going to cut out some of the black parts on the leaves because I wanted you to be able to kind of get a glimpse of the page underneath through the leaves that were on the top. So I did that to all of the leaves, just randomly cutting out some pieces. It wasn't the same on all of them, I just went where I felt like I wanted to and cut a bit out. And then I'm just using some washi tape to stick them in place. I kind of like the way that they're layering over each other as well, and you can peep through them to see. So this one that I'm sticking down now, I do end up moving a little bit more to the right because obviously it's overlapping the fold in the book, and it would have ended up with a really strange crease in it if I'd left it where it was. So next I'm using a Signo Uniball, and I'm just going around the outside and doing like a dotted line, almost like a stitching line around the outside of the leaf and down the centre. And then I had quite a big quote to write on, so I was just roughly sketching some lines and working out where the words were going to go. This is quite often how I do it, because as you know, as you've seen happen with some of my videos in the past, you get to the end of your quote and you've run out of space and you've still got a couple of words left to write. So I really didn't want that to happen. So it's always worth planning it out if you want to be certain that everything's going to fit. And there we go, that's the quote written in there. And some dots, some mark making using a white Posca pen. And then I decided that I would outline the black elements on the leaf just to help them stand out a bit. I've also added some more pieces of the black spotty washi tape just to kind of help it match up with the bit that I used to stick it in. So here's the finished page. I was really quite pleased about how this turned out, so I hope you've enjoyed the video. Thank you very much for watching.